As a recovering book snob, I have made strides in my journey to recovery, but one genre I haven't conquered yet is romance. I find it cliche and predictable and honestly just cringe, I think is the best word to use. Something about focusing on the love story between two people just disgusts me. A few months ago I did a reading outside my comfort zone where I read only romance, and I chose those books because of their popularity. I chose a few that really hit and that I enjoyed and that felt like steps forward, and then I chose some that felt like steps back, I think is the best way to describe it. So in this video I'm going to read 24 hours worth of romance books, but I will be choosing the books with a slightly more refined approach. First off, we have A Love Song for Ricki Wade by Tia Williams. And this book really jumped out at me because of Shelby's review. She really described it as something a little bit different. I didn't realise, but there's some magical realism in there. And she actually specifically said it was genre bending. And to be honest, I think that was the nail in the coffin, and I put this book straight on the list. Next up we have Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I have actually reserved this at the library, so you won't be seeing this for a few days now. But this is another one where it's definitely a romance, but I've heard that Emily Henry creates really good kind of emotional depth in her characters, and there's always something else going on in the character's life. Romance is at the centre, but there are really strong other currents occurring, and that's why I feel like, you know, I'm putting my trust in that rec. The final two are a little bit random. One is Memorial by Bryan Washington. This is honestly there because it's been on my TBR for a while and I've started reading it, and so I was like, well, I'll dip in and out of it throughout this video. I think this is a romance, like it's tagged with romance on Goodreads, but I'm about a third of the way through and it doesn't feel very romantic yet, and I don't know if it ever will be, because it's kind of about a couple that don't really like each other anymore. So we'll see where that goes. And then finally, a book that I honestly think was quite a reckless choice, but I'm a secret Bridgerton watcher. I love it. And so to celebrate the upcoming season, this is another library reservation. I've reserved Bridgerton, the Duke and I, which is the book that is equivalent to season 3, which is the season that's coming out on Valentine's Day. I'm a bit scared though, because I don't want to make loads of progress with A Love Song for Ricki Wilde and Book Lovers and then read a Bridgerton tale, which I've heard quite mixed things about. But I don't know, I like to keep things interesting. I'm actually in my running kit right now, so we're going to start things off with a run and listen to an hour and a half's worth of A Love Song for Ricki Wilde. I'll tell you how I find it. Hello, I'm 3 hours in. I think I'm gonna switch over to regular book now. So I'm gonna read Memorial on the Kindle because the other two books I still haven't been able to collect from the library. By the way, running with an audiobook is a complete godsend. It's so nice, and it's also just a great incentivizer because instead of sad times 1.5 hours of running ahead of me, it's just like, oh, but I will also get to know what happens in my book. But yeah, as I was saying, I am going to the library. I'm doing a bit of a library crawl. That's the benefit of being in London. I'm a member of like my borough's libraries, and there are loads of libraries in my borough. So if my most local library doesn't have my book, I can just go to a different library. So I'm gonna use Bus Hopper and just take loads of buses between libraries to drop off these books that I read recently, that I actually spoke about in my last video. That is Daisy Jones and the Six, A Year of Rest and Relaxation, and Stay True. Good books, by the way. And then while I'm dropping off these books, I'm going to pick up Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, which I'm pretty afraid of, but I guess I should give you an update on how I'm finding A Love Song for Ricki Wilde. I'm enjoying it. It's pretty riveting. I think it's boding really well, and it's easing me into romance really nicely because we haven't really got any romance yet, which is nice. It's a nice build up. There are a lot of other things going on. There's already quite a lot of mystery. We're getting to know Ricki, and she's kind of 2023 era. And then our other voice that we've only heard one chapter from so far, I've listened to 5 chapters, we've only heard 1 in this other voice, is a guy, and he's from like 1923. I have to say though, romance books do seem to always describe men in the same way, and this book isn't the exception. It's always the most generically good-looking man. They're always over 6 foot and are like incredibly chiseled, and the phrase "his eyes bored into me" has been used already, and there's something about that phrase. You could really do bingo with romance books and the way they describe their men. Anyway, food for thought. I'm enjoying myself though, and excited to cleanse the palate with In Memoriam, where love is actually dying. It's kind of feels like more of an anti-romance book at the moment. Only 21.5 hours to go, 22.5 hours to go. That's quite a lot. Okay. Good morning. So I have not achieved what I hoped to achieve. I'm just over 5 hours in now to a love song for Ricki Wade, and I haven't really done, I did 30 minutes of reading Memorial, but obviously I haven't done loads of that. I'm someone who reads 1 book at a time, and that's just who I am. I find it quite hard, like I want to just read the whole book until it's done, and I don't really like switching between them. So I'm not sure what I was attempting to do in this challenge. I also yesterday failed to collect the other books from the library that I'm meant to be reading, so I'm going to be doing that today. Other than that, I'm about to make tiramisu, but it's tiramisu with a twist, because I'm going to be adding like pistachios to it, but I'm going to make the pistachio butter myself, so I need to grind up some pistachios. I'll show you my ingredients right now. I've got these biscuits laid out, got my coffee, I'm going to pour over, I've got my Grand Marnier, some granulated sugar, ladyfingers, mascarpone, eggs, cocoa powder, and here are my pistachios. Okay, tiramisu is done, and I'm gonna go begin my afternoon adventures. I've done the maths, and this afternoon / this evening I'm gonna spend at least 3.5 hours on buses. So here's my outfits. Not the most impressive. Hello, 2-day check-in. I have just finished a love song for Ricki Wade. Unfortunately, I haven't been feeling very well, so I've been mostly listening on audio because I don't want to hurt my eyes. I'm a bit worried actually. I read so much now. I don't think it's very good for my eyes, and I need to start looking after them. Anyway, I finished that audiobook. I did read a little bit of Memorial, but to be honest, I think I'm gonna drop it for now. I read 25 minutes of that, so we're just over the 12-hour mark. People who actually read for 24 hours solid I can't even, that just explodes my brain. I cannot even imagine doing that. But on the good side of things, I now have Romancing Mr. Bridgerton. I didn't realise it was published in 2002, ages ago, and I believe it is meant to be really iconic, like that's why it was made into a series. I reckon, based on how popular the Bridgerton books are, I think this is going to be an easy read. And A Love Song for Ricki Wilde I also found pretty riveting. Very engaging, warm characters. I still found myself cringing a bit. Overall, there's a lot of cheese, but I enjoyed it. So yeah, I'm going to try and get a lot of this done. I'll keep you updated. And not beach read, what's it called? Book lovers. My reservation has been prepared and is ready for me now at the library, so I'll be picking that up tomorrow. I think I'm gonna see how much progress I can make on this first. In case you're wondering, this is my counting system because I can't be bothered to use a timer. I just think I would mess it up. I'm currently really into baked potatoes, so that's what we're eating right now. A bit of cheese and butter. I just don't have any vegetables in. I would usually have the odd vegetable if it were available. Sorry, I feel like the light's really bad. So I've made a lot of progress with this book. I've read it for 2 hours and 40. That puts us nearly at the 15-hour mark. So we're almost, it's just such an unglamorous method. And I have really good news, which is I'm enjoying myself a lot. I don't know what it is. My current hypothesis is that I find contemporary romance makes me cringe because I'm constantly asking myself how realistic it is. A lot of the lines in it are trying so hard to be cool and hip, and it just doesn't sit right with me. Whereas with Regency romance or like this type of romance, it's never going to be relatable. It's always going to be stilted and weird, but I just put my whole heart, put my whole trust in the book and let myself get carried away with the story. Like, it's a lot harder for me to get too in my head about it when I'm reading something that's set at a time that I just don't really know that much about anyway. That's what I think is going on. And I also quite like the tension that's created through not having mobile phones, through the characters not being able to contact each other that easily. A lot of the, you know, little miscommunications or just the characters' feelings, it's all much more believable because they're existing at a time when everyone is meant to be a lot more repressed and dishonest and emotionally unaware. Like, at the moment, Colin Bridgerton clearly fancies Penelope, but he just doesn't even really recognise that in himself. And if it were a contemporary book, I would just find that really unbelievable. But because it's back in the day, I'm very happy to accept it, and it doesn't really bother me. Anyway, as you can tell, I'm starting to get it. Like, I get the romance love. I'm holding out a huge amount of hope for book lovers, because that's another one that people describe as like multi-genre, and the romance it's not like the absolute centre of the story in the way that romance is typically the romance is, understandably. Anyway, I'm gonna have my potatoes now. We are done, and it took 5 hours and 40 minutes in the end. I'm so glad I read Bridgerton. It's really like opened my eyes. It was such an enjoyable read. I love how the Bridgerton siblings and their mum all have such a lovely relationship. That really added a lot for me, and the sex scenes were chill. They didn't make me cringe, which is pretty impressive. This is our little hour count. 17 hours and 40 minutes of romance has been read solidly. I haven't read any non-romance since this began, and I am missing non-romance. I would like to return to genres that aren't romance, but this feels like a productive exercise. I think we're finally getting somewhere. The last time I did a video like this where I read romance, there were moments, glimmers of hope, but overall I wouldn't say I was fully convinced. But I think this might be the video. I think this experiment might reform me fully. My enjoyment of each book is just growing and growing. And book lovers, which we're probably going to finish within this video, book lovers, I think it's the one. Guys, I've just hit 24 hours, but I simply must finish this book. I've only got a few pages left, and I'm having a really, really good time. I'm loving it a lot, like more than I thought I would. Anyway. Guys, I'm done. I'm so glad I read this book. My determination to get into romance reading is because I really like rom-coms, so I just know that there's romance for me out there. But in the past, whenever I've tried romance books, I find myself not enjoying them, feeling like they're full of cliches, and obviously that's a part of why the genre is great, the cliches. So I've been really struggling to put my finger on what I don't enjoy about these books, and kind of as an extension of that, then struggling to find books that I like. But I'm happy to say that Book Lovers by Emily Henry has done it. It's cracked the code. It's the first one where I know for certain that I will be reading more Emily Henry. I feel very safe in her arms. It's quite cheesy, but it doesn't feel overwritten cheesy. I feel like romance books often really jump out, or what I find is the wittiness and the quirkiness of the protagonist just like is constantly jumping out at you from the page in a way that I don't enjoy. But for whatever reason, the little quips and observations in Happy Place, I just found them charming, and they made sense, and I didn't find myself cringing. And the spicy scenes, I actually didn't find myself cringing at all either. This is just exactly what I envisaged when I was hoping to start to really get into romance. I'm so looking forward to reading more Emily Henry. And also, as I expected, like, the story is so much more than the romance. You've got overall character development and family relationships and work struggles. It's just wonderful. I really like this book. Okay, one complaint actually, because obviously I still always have a complaint in the locker, is that romance books, like, men looking at you, men's eyes, and unfortunately this is no exception, it's always described as boring, as in like digging, like his eyes bore into me. And I was thinking about it, and on one hand it is a slightly unfair criticism from me, because it is a word, it's like a good word to use in this scenario. It is accurate. I was thinking of other ways to describe that feeling when someone's really like looking into your soul, and it's quite hard to do it concisely. Like, boring is the right word, but I just see it way too much, and it also like kind of makes my skin crawl for no reason. I have this gross image when I think of someone's eyes boring into you. Like, I actually imagine actual digging, like flesh going everywhere. On that note, I think I'll finish this video. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a lovely week. I hope you've had a lovely week. I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.